All right, I'm Charlie Glackin, and I represent the group and have since September 9th, 1980, when they they entered the re-entry manufacturing facility of General Electric at King of Prussia, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. And the eight, Daniel Berrigan and Philip Berrigan and the rest, destroyed two what are called nose cones of an offensive re-entry nuclear warhead and a carbon shield that goes over the re-entry vehicle, and poured blood symbolically on some of the blueprints and other documents in the room. It was the final inspection and shipment room within the building there. They had been arrested before 7 o'clock in the morning, and I showed up at the police station within an hour of their arrest because I had been notified that they would be arrested. And I didn't see them for about 8 or 9 hours. I was told by the police they were not under arrest. They were under investigation, which is, of course, a ridiculous distinction. And about 5 hours after their arrest, they were taken back to GE, and I went back to GE. And what are supposed to be identifications were made in, to me, a rather ridiculous fashion, in that each of the defendants was wheeled in on a wheelchair to the room where the damage had been done, and employees had been lined up and were supposed to say, yes, that's one of them. Well, you know, I could have been wheeled in on a wheelchair, and they would have said I was one of them. But under those circumstances, which are highly suggestive, I think it was, you know, really poor tactic. And as a matter of fact, before it was completed, the U.S. attorney called and said that he wanted it stopped, that it was ruining the possibility of prosecution. Later, the U.S. attorney dropped the notion of prosecuting for whatever reason, but that's how it began. They were held from 7 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening before we had what's called preliminary arraignment, which just means you're notified that there are charges against you and what the charges are and what your bail is. An extraordinary period of time to hold anybody, and certainly peaceful people like this. The FBI went to great lengths to see that Philip and Daniel Berrigan were denied bail altogether, and bail for the other people was set at $125,000. I think you know, anyone experienced with bail would say that that's a figure that for a capital offense is high. It was full cash bail. You couldn't put up 10%, which would be $12,500. It was $125,000. So the case started there with the obvious paranoia of the local police and the prosecution, and the FBI, I think, being highly embarrassed, General Electric being highly embarrassed that 8 people of this peaceful personality could just slip in facility and destroy 2 re-entry nose cones and damage other property without offering any resistance, or, you know, they stopped when they were asked to stop their hammering. They used just simple round-headed hammers to do the damage, and they used baby bottles to carry the blood, human blood, to pour it about the room. I saw it all when I went back with the defendants, and I think there was tremendous embarrassment on the part of General Electric and the FBI. And I have never understood the paranoia or the terrific anger of the community toward these people. I think it's like any situation where you challenge someone's conscience, and they don't expect you to, they don't like you to, they haven't thought about the issue, and the fact that you come and rattle them makes them as angry as trying to speak to somebody who doesn't understand what you're talking about. And sometimes that can precipitate anger. So that in the community, I see it on the jury. There is anger. There is every one of them has an opinion. The process we're going through right now is jury selection. You know, you'd have to put quotes around it because it's not a selection process. The judge has taken hold of it. It's a judge whom I consider to lack judicial temperament, quite frankly. I think as a citizen I have the right to make comment about that. He explodes. He changes his mind, how he's going to do things every half day. Yesterday, the process was different from the day before. And finally, today, as punishment to the defendants who are conducting their own defense. I mean, we are merely advising them. Ramsey Clark and Mike Shields next to me, and we're just advising them how to go ahead. And a lot of it is just by their own good instincts. They're good human beings, and I think their communication with the jury could mean everything in this case. I think if we get fair jurors, people with open minds, people who understand that it may be, and I'm using the term conditionally, but who can accept that it may be against international law to produce these weapons. And if that's true, they want people who would have the open mind to make that judgment. Because under our law, we have what we call the justification defense, which means not that these people really care about being exonerated or not being punished. They've been punished. They've served 5 months in prison waiting for bail when they were denied bail at such a high level. So that, the punishment aspect is irrelevant from their point of view. But in communicating their message, it will be important to raise the defense of justification, because that will allow us to have the experts to show that their state of mind in believing that in going in there and doing what they did was right, and that it was more important than the right of General Electric to have property or to produce a product, that right was overridden by the right of humanity to survive. That's recognized by Pennsylvania law. And we're just trying to have this judge quiz the jury and see if they understand that that may be a defense in this case, and could they tolerate that defense. Well, we just had a woman whose son is on a nuclear submarine, and and she says, "Sure, I can follow your instruction, Judge." That this question that lots of judges use when they want a jury and they want it quickly, and instead of saying, open-ended questions like, what is your attitude toward nuclear armament, or do you have strong feelings about nuclear war, or do you have strong feelings about the right of the American government to produce nuclear weapons? The judge said, now these people are accused of certain violations of Pennsylvania law. Could you put aside from your mind anything extraneous to that and make a finding based strictly on what you hear from the witness chair here, and this kind of nonsense, where what man or woman is going to say, "No, I won't do that, Judge. I won't be fair, and I won't be open-minded the way you're telling me to be," because that's what he's expecting a human being to say. "I will be a bigot. I will be unfair. I will do to these people what I really have in mind doing to them because my husband works for GE." Or a man sitting there, "I work for GE. Oh no, but I can have an open mind." How in God's name can they have an open mind when GE is going to ask him, "How could you vote for acquittal in this case when our property was damaged? And you think you're going to be promoted?" I mean, I think it's
practically thwarted all communication with these jurors.